And we're live again. Good. Hope I got everything in order. All right. All right. Let's go. Ukrainian Independence Day. Today's bike ride had to go sign 2 documents. Lady complimented me on how thin I've become. Workouts completed. A little bit depressing to see so many people leaving. And a little bit of a reading in Ukrainian. Folks, it is Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, and this marks 31 years since Ukraine declared its independence from the Soviet Union, which has caused no amount of consternation, untold amounts of consternation for this country and its people around the world, both in the country, outside the country, and who want to get out of the country these recent last 6 months or so. But yes, it is Ukrainian Independence Day. It's one of these days. I guess they would normally, up until what is it, 2019 or 2020, 2010, they had military celebrations in Kiev, but they've since sort of put those on the hiatus. Probably because they've been sort of having skirmishes with their Russian neighbors, but I guess they tried to had one last year, but they didn't have one this year necessarily. But what they have been doing, if you've been following the news, they actually trucked out all of the Russian tanks that they've captured in the last 6 months. They're all blown to bits and everything and unusable, but they are displaying them along. It was Krashatik in along the Maidan square there in central Kiev. Interesting to see for sure, but no escalation of bombings, at least not that the news has been saying. So I'm not sure exactly what's happening. Maybe the Russians are on vacation too. So, but this actually, given that it is Ukrainian Independence Day, I thought I would actually truck out some of my Ukrainian books, and I thought I've been meaning to go through these for years. I brought them with me from Canada. I think if my mom saw them, she'd be like, "That's where they went. Why does he have them?" Well, because she was going to throw them out, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring these along, just in case I feel so inclined to revisit my childhood Ukrainian lessons, and that's what these are from. Actually, to tell you the truth, actually, out of these 3 books here, this Kiev one, I've never read before. I've never even seen it before. And then these 2 other ones, the purple one, the Prohode, this is the middle range book, and then this one with Hodit Zemnoyu. This is it's a level 6 out of 7 levels. These are the textbooks that me and my brothers and sister used to read from in our Ukrainian school on Saturday mornings. Every Saturday. So whenever I hear people complaining about how hard the Chinese kids work and everything, I'm reminded that I too wasn't given such the childhood that I don't know what people are referring to, because we had intramurals on Thursday or Friday nights. We had Ukrainian dancing, and then Saturday mornings we had Ukrainian school from 9 until 1. The last hour of which was horribly painful. It was a choir lesson in which we learned like the Shtivimata, the national anthem of Ukraine. But it was with this choir lady who was probably overqualified for it. But I mean, she was doing a service for the community, I understand. But she was a stickler for paying attention and making sure you got it right. So it sort of lent a bit of stress towards an already stressful day, because the Ukrainian school I went to was different from the Ukrainian school that immigrant children went to, or a lot of immigrant children went to, and they went to another public school down. It was another 5-minute drive away, But we went to the one that I guess it was like a package deal where you got the Ukrainian dancing and the Ukrainian lessons all for like the price of one sort of thing. And my parents were putting so many kids through there. I'm guessing they got a nice little discount. So that's what it was. And I remember Ukrainian school. I mean, it was not this. It was not easy for me because we didn't speak Ukrainian at home, and at school we only spoke it for. Well, it was like we had 2 classes, 30 minutes twice a week, I think it was. And imagine, any of your students that only study a language for 30 minutes twice a week, they're not learning a language. I mean, and that was only between grades 3 and 6, maybe grades was it 7 and 8 as well? I can't remember, but because we had to take French as well because that was mandated by the federal government, and so that's French was from 3 till grade 10. And Ukrainian, I think, was grades 3 till it must have been grade 8. We must have had, unless it was grade 6, I can't remember. Maybe we had shops instead in grade 7 and 8, so that was a little bit different. But the one thing I remember about Ukrainian school back in the day was that we would, as maybe the first couple of years, I don't remember. I remember getting in trouble once with the teacher. I'm not sure. I remember what I said. And she was like, okay, fine, you're going to write lines. And I had to write them out in Ukrainian. And this is at the end of the day as well. And so I come down and I'm kind of in tears because, teacher called me out on my BS. And my mom's like, what happened? I got in trouble. Here are my lines. Of course, my mom was not too happy. Good thing it was mom, though. It wasn't dad, because if it was dad, he would have been a little bit more upset. So I remember that. And then the other thing I remember about Ukrainian school back in the day was there was and this is actually a little bit when I was a bit older, was going with my older brother who was in the same grade as me to there's a burger shop. It was like a laundromat. It's one of these things where I'm guessing it was run by either immigrants or someone. They had it was a multi-purpose sort of establishment. Like there was a restaurant in the front and then you can take your laundry into the back as well, sort of thing. One of those sort of establishments. I think the place is still there. I'm not sure if it still does the same thing, but the restaurant itself, I think, is still functional. They had burgers, and I remember they were cheap enough that you could get 2 burgers, and that's what I would eat. So despite what lunch my mom gave me, I'd go have a burger, if not 2. And then I'd bring the lunch home, and she's like, "What are you guys doing? Why am I making lunches for you if you're not going to eat them?" But so that would take up our Saturday mornings, and it was painful because, I mean, I guess this is where, yeah, all right. So this is the big difference between like my growing up, my rearing, my childhood, and these Chinese kids' childhood is that whereas these Chinese kids are forced to do homework until 9, 10, 11 p.m. and then they actually do know English. At least the good kids do. I never did. I mean, we did our homework. We tried to struggle through my homework up until whatever time, pretty much not learning very much. And then, class would happen at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, and I would be very ill prepared, kind of like most students, except the good students, of course. So that would, I did not do my homework very well. And if I did my homework, it was, haiku. It was okay. It was done. Let's put it that way. Whether or not it was 100% accurate, definitely not. You seeing a pattern here of my language studies? You could probably detect something here, which might make you ask yourself, like, well, so why have you studied so many languages? Maybe this is a lifelong battle. Like if I ever were to master a language, what would happen next, right? If I not that I'd be so bold as to say that I could master Chinese, but I could probably become pretty proficient in it. Could I revisit Ukrainian? Could I do French? Could I keep on studying the language that cannot be named at the moment? Well, what about like Latin and ancient Greek as well? So Latin and ancient Greek technically I have reading proficiency at graduate level. So it's kind of funny, but at the same time, I don't know if I could be translating books for anybody just yet. I'd be using Google Translate like most other people. But with all this Ukrainian stuff, like Ukrainian language and everything. Yet it has it was one of these things that I always thought I would get around to, that I would learn it eventually, and that it would just come naturally. Little did I realize that learning a language to fluency, to such proficiency, requires a lot of work. And to be fair, a lot of the people who are who speak Ukrainian either were from Ukraine or were first or second generation Canadians or Ukrainians born in Canada, but they had Ukrainian parents. So I'd be over a third generation on my mom's side. It's I mean, we didn't speak Ukrainian at home. We spoke English. That was it. And I know all my friends who speak Ukrainian at home, again, they're either immigrants or they're sons and daughters of immigrants. So they know the language because that's the language that they spoke within their family. For me, Ukrainian has been a cultural thing. It's been a traditional thing. It's been part of the heritage, but it's also been a subject of study. So it's never been something that I've used on a day-to-day basis. I've never needed to. I've talked about my appreciation before about my grandfather, my grandparents moving from Ukraine to Canada to give me the two things that have pretty much put me in Beijing at this time, and speaking English and having the Canadian passport are two things that have enabled me to travel extensively throughout the world. So it's been good in that way. I don't know what my family would be doing otherwise. I'm not sure if, tough to say how it would have turned out, especially given the current war going on in the Ukrainian lands. So, very appreciative of how things have turned out so far. But as a result, what I want to do actually today is do some Ukrainian readings. I'm going to take a look at these books, and I have not looked at these for a very long time. Matter of fact, I was just trying it out a little bit before recording, but I'm going to try sight unseen Ukrainian reading. I said I was going to do this for my language vlog as well, so this will be a rough draft, and then I think for the language vlog, I'll do a little bit more practice and pop up some of these childhood memories up on the language vlog. So today I did actually have to go to across the city to Haidian to sign 2 documents through an electronic tablet, of which they rejected my first signature. They're like, no, we can't read that. You have to sign it so we can read it. So you mean like print? Yes. Please print your name. Okay, so don't sign, print. Gotcha. So what had to happen is I had to update my passport. And if I was a Chinese residence card holder, I think I could update it online. But since I just have a passport, especially on a foreign passport, could not. So I had to go out there. Now, my biggest anxiety for the day is that I very foolishly, I knew what I was doing, but I was like, yeah, I could be there at 9 o'clock thinking, yesterday was Tuesday night. Tuesday night, I was like, yeah, I got lots of time, if I get up, but what if I skip the morning workout? I actually said this yesterday, that I was going to bunch it all together. And I'm like, no, that's a terrible idea. The whole purpose of the morning workout is to be in the fasted state to do my workout in. That's what the goal is, right? Although I don't think I stopped eating at about 8 o'clock last night. So when I got up to do my workout today, I was like, I got up, I was like, okay, let's just get the workout in. Maybe I'll be fasted for the bike ride out there, and then I'll bike ride back, and then I'll end my fast at lunch. That didn't work. Instead, so I got up at 6, out of bed. I was like, okay, I looked at the time, 6 o'clock. Okay, 6:05. Let's go. If I do this quickly, not quickly, if I just get up and go, I can get all of it done. The 2-mile run, 2 rounds of jumping rope, and with the medicine ball and everything, get 2 rounds in there. And as long as I'm out the door by 7:30, I could cycle there and get that in as well, because that's what I was kind of going for. Managed to complete the workout. I'm coming back in, and it's 7:20. I'm like, okay, so already I've lost some time here. I don't know how I did. But thinking, you know what? What if, okay, so I'm going to eat. So I had my cottage cheese and applesauce. And then checking work, and apparently work needs to get rearranged a little bit, so I had to deal with some of that. And already it's getting pushing 7:40, 7:45. I'm like, and there's no bikes outside, so that means I got to go to the subway station to find a bike. I didn't get to the subway station, so I'm walking out, finally ready, and it's like 8 o'clock. I'm going this oof that trying to cycle there. So I messaged the lady who've been communicating with, and I said, could I be there for 9:30, 10? She's like, no, it'd be tough because we have other customers we have to deal with as well. I guess because other people had to update their passports and identities, identification documents or whatever, right? So, like, all right, fine, we're gonna take the subway. So I took the subway all the way there, which is I did not want to do this. I haven't taken the subway in months, if not a year or more. First of all, got rejected because I don't have my NAT thing is not uh, linked to my subway card. So I'm like, okay, someone's beeping at me. There's a lady chasing me down. She's like, let me look. I'm like, okay, yes, here. So it's negative NAT and everything. She buzzes me through. Good. Transfer at, was it Taisha Cole? Horrible. So this is line 7 to line 4. And it's just brutal. And line 4. And I haven't had to do this for a very long time. If you're in Beijing, you know what the morning rush hour is like on the subways. It's insane. It's just stupid. There's so many people. It's like, those famous pictures of Japanese subway systems being crammed full of people and people like just jumping into the subway car. That's what that was today. I mean, literally, I walked to the end of the train where there's usually the fewest number of people, relatively speaking. And even to get on, like the first train came, I saw other people run inside and like squeeze in. The second train came in, and I saw other people who were lined up behind me push past and try to get in. So I'm like, I gotta go. There was also an IE or a grandmother, a yeye, and a Nai and her kid, her grandchild. And so Nai is grandmother. And she would not get onto the train. So she's like, no, I'm not taking my granddaughter to that zoo. No way. But I push in. And it turns out it's just for the one stop. It's from Taishiko up to whatever it is, the next one. Like, and then a decent 16th of the train empties, and that's enough to give you, hands off of certain areas, sort of thing. So you're no longer pressed up against anybody. So yeah, it was, yeah, not exactly what I wanted to do this morning, but I managed to get there. I had to go to Weigongsun. Weigongsun is so it's right by BLCU and by BFSU, which I've been to many times before. But yeah, it was just a lot. Luckily, knowing the area, I knew that I could grab a bike and then I could cycle back. So the whole document signing thing took 40 minutes longer than it should have, but that's what it was. And but I was talking to this lady who I haven't seen since basically I've opened the account many years ago. And she's like, oh my God, you're so thin now. I'm like, yeah, since we met, I think I've dropped about 18 kilos. That's like 36 pounds, 40 pounds around there. And I mean, I'm telling her my current diet and how much I'm running and stuff like that. And it's basically because, I'm working from home. I stay at home. I run around my compound and eat vegetables for lunch. That is the secret. That's it. There's nothing more than that. Just run around a bunch of times, lift some kettlebells if you can, and then don't eat the Chinese breakfast either. I would say that a lot of people blame hamburgers and pizza and meat, and I go, the Chinese breakfast isn't exactly the lean meal that they. I'm not even sure if they register as it being any type of food. It's just like, it's just tradition. I'm like, yes, and that tradition is lots of fat and a lot of bleached flour, carbohydrates. So, but traditions are what they are, right? So yeah, we had caught up for a little bit, but she was busy. I'm busy. I had to get back and finish up work as well. So I did cycle back. It took me just over an hour. So I made a video, and I am on it should be uploading right now through YouTube and TikTok. So you can have a look at that as well. Other than that, a little bit depressing to see some names on the way out, people that I'm surprised that are leaving. And I was wondering, even if they came back, would it be the same thing? Would it still be, catching up? Like it would be like picking up where we left off, sort of thing. I think there has been sort of an overall agreement that Beijing is not what it was before 5 years ago. Definitely not 10 years ago. The city has changed substantially. You could argue not for the better. You might argue that there's a consolidation. There's sort of a whatever it is, a reorganization of sorts. Whatever it is, people aren't sticking around to see it through. And so, of course, that has me kind of, yesterday I was thinking about what if, in 6 months, 10 months, 1 year, 2 years, what's the deal? Could China be home? And if China is home, then you'd sort of live through this sort of thing. I'll have to revisit this idea. It's something I've been thinking about, but if you guys have any thoughts on it, for sure, let me know. Could China be home for you guys or girls? Right? Good question. I don't know. All right, I'm going to leave it there, folks. For those of you listening on the podcast, stay tuned because I'm going to have a separate recording of my Ukrainian readings here, and then I'm going to try to record them as well as I can. Let's hope they don't suck too bad. All right, folks, show notes, tracks, and vids up on my website. Thank you very much for listening and watching. We will do this again. Have a good one. Bye-bye. All right, so I'm going to name that. I'm going to go there. Bang, 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 bang. Saved. Save as. Bang, bang. Good. All right, so. I wonder. Right. We're going to end this here, and I'm going to have to make a separate stream. All right, folks, thanks.